to Heroes Forge, a Heroes of the Storm podcast.
What's going on, Forgers? Welcome to Season 2, Episode number 96 of Heroes Forge, a community-driven podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. As always, this podcast is brought to you by our outstanding supporters on patreon.com/HeroesForge. This is your show host, Jeff Reynolds, and I'm here with the co-host of the show who is more awesome than breakfast burritos. It's Kristen Ashton.
Yes, I'm glad you brought up breakfast burritos because I've been eating so much stuff now that the winter bulk season is at hand. I have had pasta, I have had chocolates, I have had soda, I have had so much bread. I think I've had more bread than anything.
Well, have you had a breakfast burrito yet?
No.
But I will. Huge breakfast burrito guy.
Really?
Yeah.
So what's your ultimate breakfast burrito?
I just like a classic breakfast burrito, throw little eggs in there, sausage, throw some potatoes in there, and get yourself a little bit of pico de gallo to top it off.
So good. Now, do you have salsa in the tortilla itself, or are you a dipper?
No, in the tortilla.
I like it. It keeps it all together. And if the tortilla is good enough, it won't break apart in your hands. You have to pull out a fork anyway.
That's right. This is Burrito Forge, everyone, where we're going to be talking about burritos for an entire hour. I actually think I could do that.
Yes, right? And then, of course, we have crepes, which you could argue are the French version of the burrito and filled with sugar.
Yeah, I love me some crepes as well. Let's get on to the news here. Let's get on to what we're here to talk about today. And the first thing is we have, as every week on the last, 2 months of the show, we have our BlizzCon countdown. And we only have 354 days, Kristen, until BlizzCon.
The countdown begins anew, everybody, and I am hyped for next year. What are you hoping to see, Jeff?
Oh my, I couldn't even begin to tell you how amazing this BlizzCon was. It was one of the best things I've done in my life. I mean, it was so great to meet all of you guys out there at, the Amove TV meetup and the Con Before the Storm and the World of Podcasts and at the stage for the HGC and seeing everybody walking around the show floor. I mean, Kristen, what was the highlight for you? What was the best thing that happened? Whether it was an announcement, whether it was watching the HGC, maybe watching some Hearthstone, playing the new Hearthstone content. It can be anything.
Okay, so I've got two things. First one, hats off to whoever designed the opening announcements this year and went with jumping from stage to stage to stage. That was absolutely amazing. I just the way it kind of brought everything together, but still expanding upon just how big that place was. It was so cool. But my favorite thing, of course, is when Sylvanas went full Banshee and then screamed for the Horde. That was amazing.
I thought you might say that. And well, for those of you out there that maybe don't know, and I don't know how you couldn't know, because if you don't know, you're in an amazing spot, though, if you don't, because you get to watch it for the first time and experience it for the first time. But there was a brand new World of Warcraft cinematic announcing the new expansion to the game that's coming when it's ready, whenever that is. But the moment, Kristen, what moment are you talking about there? I mean, I know what it is.
Well, in the cinematic, we are going back to the Horde Alliance rivalry. And so it is Sylvanas pitted against Anduin, who is being manipulated by Greymane. I'm calling it. But anyway, so you have the Sylvanas-Anduin fight going on. And Sylvanas gets her moment in the sun. She takes down this huge tower, goes into Banshee form. It's a loud scream, and then she reverts back to herself and screams for the Horde. And it's great because the sound design they did, it gives her this resonance and this echo that just reverberates through your body. And of course the Horde rises up, they fight back, and then Anduin gets his moment with this epically huge res. Everyone comes back to life, and then it finishes with a shot of an orc and a human going at one another to really kind of tie together and bring us back to the older days.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, great description. I mean, I think I've probably watched it 10 to 15 times. I just love I mean, you see different minute details and a huge, I mean, words cannot describe how awesome the animation is. I mean, you just gotta watch it. The nuances, the things that you never thought would ever be possible when drawing a face on somebody, or the way that, you know, the physics are working. It's incredible. Go and watch it if you haven't. If you have watched it, watch it again, because it's really, really great. That's the highlight of my BlizzCon as well, was that announcement trailer. But we did get some Heroes news.
We did. We are getting Alex Straza, but I think in this excitement for Alex Straza, we have forgotten the most important fact. Hashtag husband Hanzo is also coming to the Nexus.
Now, did you have an opportunity? I'm just going to fly right past that. Did you have an opportunity to play these characters on the show floor?
I did, but I was mainly trying out Hanzo because he's a very long-range ability-based assassin. So he feels kind of like Li Ming in that sense. And also baked into his kit is a decently fast cooldown sight, and it gives a lot of sight. So I'm very, very interested to see what happens when he finally releases.
Yeah, he definitely, I had a chance to play both of these, and the Hanzo was really difficult for me. The timing, the auto attacks are super slow, and the ultimate is cool. I mean, the ultimate, like the one from Overwatch, was of course the one that I took on the time I got to play him, and it's really cool. He's going to take a serious amount of practice. He's going to have a seriously high skill level required to play him, but we've seen characters like that before. We got the KTs out there. We got these characters that require a ton of practice to make superb, and I think he will be incredible once you get practice. Now, Alex Straza on the other side of this whole thing is the one that I got to play the most, because I play healers or support characters a lot, and I was thrilled to see that we had another healer coming in, and they've been, really amping up this dragon thing. And I gotta say, I was disappointed to hear at the beginning that it was humanoid form transforming into a dragon. And even sitting here now, I am disappointed that it isn't just straight up dragon form 24/7 in the Nexus, right? I mean, it's just kind of like, ugh.
That's fair. But at the same time, that speaks well to how wonderfully crafted the dragon form is, right?
Well, yeah, and that's what I wanted to say, is that as much as I feel that towards not being a dragon all the time, the transition into humanoid to dragon is it feels so good. I can't wait for everybody out there to get your hands on it, to actually play it. To me, it feels incredible to be, and Kristen, Kyle, and I talked about this when we were at the HGC, kind of just chatting, where you're the support character that has the ability at this time to call a shot at this, like, we're going in, and you just straight up turn into a dragon. It amplifies all of her effects, everything that's going on. You could be that person that decides it's time to engage because I'm ready to rock and roll, if you wanted to. Maybe that's not always the right thing to do, who knows, but it feels so good. It roars, talking about sound effects, that in the headphones, it roars and you turn into a dragon. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and of course they went with I love the fact that they went with, she does damage to enemies but heals her compatriots. How many times have we talked about something like that on this show? So to see it actually enacted, I am just in love with that fact.
Oh, yeah. And something else I know that we've talked about on the show that got baked into her kit was a heal that happens after a delay, right? You lay down her second basic ability. There's a circle on the ground that spins and kind of fills up with this green energy. Once the green energy comes full, it shoots up a heal, and anyone that's friendly that's standing in that circle gets the heal. If you stand on that circle before the heal bursts off, you can see how much it will heal you for. It shows it as if it was like a healing fountain on your health bar. So I mean, it's some cool things that they baked into this.
Yeah, there was a lot of love put into this kit, most certainly.
Absolutely. Both of them, for sure. Can't wait to get our hands on all of them. You know, the Heroes announcements were a little less than we had expected, at least on this show, but I think that they've got a lot of stuff coming in the next year. They went into a huge deep dive about all of the changes that are happening with matchmaking, a whole bunch of different really cool changes that are going to change the way the game plays and feels. For more stuff on the news and all of those changes and patch notes and things like that, make sure you check out Into the Nexus, which I'm sure a lot of our listeners already listened to already, but check it out. It's on Amove.tv, and they cover all of those things in depth, and they just have a really great mind for those sorts of things.
That they do. And of course, they keep it user-friendly too, right? It's not extremely deep dive to the point where you need to be a pro to understand. It's kept pretty friendly. You new, old, everyone can enjoy something.
Absolutely. Check it out on Amove TV, Into the Nexus. Okay, here we go. We got some more stuff to talk about. As you noticed, when we started this show, we said that it was episode 96, which means ever looming on the horizon here is episode 100. We're getting hyped up for episode 100 now. We're hoping to have a little bit of Blizzard support for our episode 100, so stay tuned for what might be in store for us. And stay tuned during the holiday season as we get into some holiday times here for a schedule changes. We are going to provide you an episode every week for the rest of the year, obviously, but and beyond. But they're going to change days, so just kind of keep up and make sure you follow us on Twitter, at Forge Heroes on Twitter, and you can use all of your extra tweet characters to send us a message and let us know what heroes you want to see on the show, right?
That's right. And now with the extra letters you have, you could even build full kits if you wanted to.
Absolutely. Just put an ability in each tweet and send us 6 tweets just straight across.
Boom. It's done. It's good. We got it.
It is totally good. So let's do what we're here to do, and let's do just that. Let's forge.
Let's forge.
All right, we're here. You know, Kristen, another announcement at BlizzCon that made me really stoked and excited was actually the Hearthstone announcement.
The kobolds and catacombs?
It was, and I thought it was so cool. If you didn't get the virtual ticket or you didn't get to see how they announced this, Ben Brode came out onto the stage and actually played a very cool version of this door, that door, choose your own adventure, Dungeons and Dragons thing with the entire audience on the Hearthstone stage. And that's what the feel that they're going for, is they're going for this dungeon crawler expansion for Hearthstone.
They totally are. And of course they kept it with that consonant repetition, kobolds and catacombs, Dungeons and Dragons, right? But instead of being D&D, it's not C&C either. It's like a C and K kind of thing. So they had to write it out. We couldn't exactly shorten it. But yes, it looks amazing. And then there's also a solo player mode coming in too, where you challenge bosses.
Yeah. Did you get to play it at BlizzCon?
I did not, but I've been catching up on the Lich King so that I'm kind of back into Hearthstone when it does drop.
Oh, yeah. I got to play the dungeon run at BlizzCon, and it was invigorating. It is very, it brought me back into the game in a different way. It's free, first of all, which is killer. If you're a free-to-play player for Hearthstone, it's free. You get to do the entire dungeon run for free. It's a bunch of bosses. I want to say 10 to 12 bosses. I'm not 100% sure, but you randomly build decks as you go through, and you get to the end, and then it's going to get harder and harder and harder, and there are rewards after bosses. It's incredible. Check it out when it launches. It's going to be early December, they're saying, so keep an eye on the Blizzard launcher. But if you can't get enough kobolds and catacombs, it's a good thing that you're listening to the show right now, because our forging tonight was actually inspired by that announcement.
Yes, it was. And I think, Jeff, you won quite handily this last time, didn't you?
I don't know. I didn't even look. Did I win? I was so intrigued with BlizzCon going on, and I was like, you know what we need to do?
Oh, no. This was at HGC. We're sitting there at the finals, and this success Twitter poll result comes my way. 64% Jeff took it.
Did you tell me that at the finals?
Someone passed a phone over. I saw you took it with 64%. And so tonight, the kobold fever rages.
It does, and we're forging the Candleking, which is one of the named kobolds inside of World of Warcraft. And these little guys are weird.
They're, they are very weird, but they keep to themselves, right? They don't really like to interact with outsiders. But when you finally do find them and kind of thrust yourself into their society without their permission, you kind of see why they're a little weird, because they're not making stuff up about keeping those candles lit.
No, I mean, it's weird. You're right. It's weird. And these guys, they're kind of like little... Well, explain to us, Kristen, what are we missing about kobolds here? What's in their background?
All right. Well, the little background for the Candleking, tucked away within the caves of Highmountain, rules a tiny but ferocious leader known as the Candleking. Ruling over his fellow kobolds with his mighty horned helm, he has the grandest collection of lit candles any kobold has ever dared dream possess.
So these guys live in mining caves, in catacombs, if you will, wink wink, and they have candles on their head. Correct me if I'm wrong with any of this stuff. Through my research, I found that they have candles on their head because that is what they use for light when they're in these mine shafts.
Yes, and it's not that bad of an idea, right? Because the wax would drip onto their heads and kind of cement the candle there. And so you just keep adding wicks and candles, and it won't fall off because it's stuck to their heads.
Sure. It's so funny how you said that. Like, it's not that bad of an idea, right? Because the wax would drip on their head. Instantly, I'm thinking, that's a bad idea.
No, but they're covered in fur, and probably thick fur. They don't look like they're soft. They look like they're bear fur kind of a thing, right? Where they've got 2 to 3 layers, and they have to spend 5 hours each day cleaning it, kind of a thing.
Yeah, and they're not cute. You wouldn't cuddle with a kobold. I mean, they're not. Their voices are crazy. Through my research, I found that they are cowards. They're not very good at mining. Chad is asking, always wondering why they mine. Well, they're not good at it. So all of these things, they're just a weird race in the game. And they have, in Legion, they have some ties into the story and what's actually happening in the story in Legion, which is really cool. They've partnered up with some of the harpies, and they're kind of, doing bad things around Legion, and it's cool. So these guys they would be a really cool model in the game. That's why I thought about it. It would look very different than anything that we have right now, which would be a really cool way of looking at it.
They totally would, because they're hunched over little rat men. And of course, the voices are very different. And I mean, they're level 1 Dungeons and Dragons monsters, right? They're not going to do much harm. They're probably too stupid to know that harpies are evil. They're just doing their thing. And if the harpies said they would help them dig, why wouldn't they team up with harpies?
Totally. And don't touch the candle. If there's anything that you learn from this, it's don't touch the candle. Kristen, we're going to let you kick it off this week. So what we do, if this is your first time listening to the show, is we're going to build 2 kits for the Candleking, and just imagine what he would be like if he was in Heroes. And then at the end of the show, you can go on our Twitter page and you can vote on which one of the 2 kits you think won the candle. I was going to say won the cake, but for this one, won the candle. Cake doesn't really make sense either. But at the end of this, you can decide which one you like better than the other one. And then that person that wins the vote gets to pick for the next week. So let's get this thing started up. And the first thing we always talk about is role classifications. What role are you going with for your Kobold Candleking?
All right, for my Kobold Candleking, I want to make him a bruiser. So a warrior, but more of a bruiser warrior.
Dang. So this is like so model size in the game. You're talking about, I was thinking smaller than Meriden.
Certainly, probably about as big as Chromie. As tall as Chromie, anyway. Maybe a bit thicker, right? Because they're all hunched over and everything. But I understand the plight of us small, feisty ones. We want to fight. We want to be able to take hits. We want to be in that front line. We don't want to be in the back.
Totally. No, I was just going to say, I really like that. Which one of the Vikings is the fat one?
Olaf?
Olaf. So maybe the Candleking's around that size because it's like smaller but still bigger. I mean, I love it. So warrior. Holy cow, I can't wait to hear this because it's totally different than the direction I went. What's your trait?
The trait is called reveal. Covered in candles to ward off the dangers of the dark, the Candleking has the largest sight radius in the game, doubling that of any hero. He can even peer into bushes and vents without needing to step inside.
No way. This is really neat. Okay, so talk to me first about what this looks like, covered in candles, right? So is he got candles on his shoulders? What's he looking like?
Okay, so the Candleking in WoW has got a a kind of a moose style helmet on his head, huge antlers and everything. So maybe we've got the one candle in the middle of the head and then 2 candles on each of the antlers, maybe even 2 more on the shoulders if we're going with like a master skin kind of a thing.
Nice, wax just dripping everywhere. I love the way that that would look. Okay, so let's talk about the sight range here. So you're saying that he can even peer into bushes and vents without needing to step inside. Is this something that he has, for instance, say 2 different sight ranges? He has his normal extended sight range, and then if he gets close to a bush, closer to it, he doesn't need to go in?
Exactly, you called it. Exactly how I was imagining it. So maybe half the distance of a normal sight radius, that's how close you would have to be to the vent or bush to peer in.
Love it. Kristen, I absolutely love this. This should be in the game for a character, and I can see how cool this would be to use for, I mean, you could talent into this to see stealthies at that range, or, oh, you could do some cool stuff with it.
Oh, yeah, and this would be interesting, too, now, because we kind of have to be a bit careful with how we're dealing with stealthies now, with those changes coming in soon, right? Because not only will we kind of see them because they'll be ghosty, but if they don't move, they go totally invisible. So maybe there would be a talent then where if a stealthy, it just reveals everything.
Oh, that'd be so cool. What a great idea. What do you think? What kind of mount does he ride into battle?
I think they're very simple folk, and they haven't really invented mounts as we would know them. So I think a little kobold would run up, and the king would climb up very awkwardly, and it would take a bit. He would slip. His foot would kick a few times before he finally gets on the other kobold's shoulders, and they run around together.
I love it. That would just be a very, very cute idea. And then, of course, you could use that kobold for somebody else to ride in the Nexus, and that would be even funnier. Like you wrote down here, like the treasure goblin.
Exactly, it would run just like that. So maybe you get Cho'Gall on the back of this tiny kobold, and in that he's got this animation where he's wiping sweat from his brow the longer he goes. And we get kind of mount interactions based on how long you stay mounted and who you are as a rider.
I love it. I love it. We need stuff like that in the game too. Like, you know, maybe if you stand on the Hearthstone card and you're Cho'Gall, it bends at the sides or whatever, like as you're riding because you're bigger than somebody else. I would love stuff like that. Let's get into some basic abilities here. What's your first one?
All right, the first one is called Wax On. Taking a candle, the Candleking chucks it forward. After it reaches the intended location, it explodes, shooting hot wax everywhere. Any enemy hit with the wax is severely slowed for a few seconds as the wax hardens. Once hardened, though, the wax can be broken and normal movement is regained.
Oh, this is great. So this is a skill shot.
Yes, this would be a skill shot.
Nice. Does the slow accelerate's probably the wrong word to use for a slow.
Decelerate?
Yeah, do you continue to get slower and slower and slower until it's hard, or is it the same amount of slow from beginning to end?
I think initially it's the same amount of slow from beginning to end, but maybe you put a talent into it so it does decelerate. So maybe you get 2 times the wax on you, and that's how you kind of justify the deceleration.
Yeah, and CC like slows can be some of the most frustrating things that happen in this game.
Oh my goodness, there's nothing. Oh, Thrall's Earthquake, right? And you're moving normal, and then you're super slow. And then you're moving normal, and then you're slow again.
Yeah, that's one of the most punishing ultimates, I think, if you don't know how to just not be in there. It's bad. It's bad. Okay, let's talk about what are you coupling that? What's your second basic ability?
Second one is called Revolving Cuts. And this is, so it's an ability, but it very much plays like when Tracer is locked onto a target, where you can kind of spin around them as you're doing attacks. So the Candleking jumps on his intended target, or jumps at his intended target. He's not jumping on them, focusing a flurry of blows as he is allowed to pivot around the intended target, creating body blocks and otherwise spurring on movement mayhem.
Love it. I love the idea of the diva thought here, right? Like, because you're still being able to fly in and you're still being able to attack as you reposition yourself. Diva taught me a lot about tanking and positioning because you can still move while you're doing what you should be doing in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. And why don't we pass this on to characters that aren't from Overwatch, right? I love the whole auto lock-on of auto attacks where you can just choose a target and just kind of zone out for a little bit, to chase them. And you might do an ability here and there, but you're just trying to get some auto attacks out.
Yeah, you're going to love the Hanzo Q, right? Because you can pull that arrow back and still move, which feels really cool.
Oh my goodness, the animations. So when Hanzo comes in, fellow listeners, turn off your quick cast just so you can see the arrows on the ground, because the design team, it's beautiful. It's a work of art how those look. But back to this, yes. Exactly. You go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the way that your second basic ability here combos with the first one, right? So you chuck this candle, it hits them, they're slowed, they're moving slow, then you can use revolving cuts to kind of get around and get on the other side of them.
Yeah, totally. So Tracer has her jump forward ability, which allows you to get in front of somebody without needing any kind of move speed. So with this, you'd slow them down so you could technically give yourself move speed in relation to that slowed hero.
I love it. Such a cool idea. Okay, what's our third thing that we're going to combo this with?
All right, this one. I really love the idea that when the candles go out, they get angry. It's adorable. They're hideously adorable. So this one is called All Candles, My Candles. When the Candleking takes damage, the lights on his carried candles go out. The simple act triggers his final non-heroic. When set off, Candleking can choose to activate this ability, a pulsing AoE of shadow damage that does more damage the closer one is to the Candleking. The more candles that are out on him, the more damage this does.
Oh, what a great way to peel, right? I mean, you can really get people to go in certain directions and do really fun stuff with this.
Yeah, totally. You slow them, you start shanking them, they're no doubt doing damage to you. And so then you can turn on this AoE, which, if it's a really tight death ball, can work to your advantage as a bruiser. I mean, look at Sonya's Whirlwind, for instance. If you don't spread when she starts going, you're not going to kill her.
No, absolutely not. And so you're saying that this is pulsing. So what's the rate that it pulses out? Is this something that if you see it coming, you would get hit by the first pulse and then you'd have time to get out of there? Or are you guaranteed to hit a couple pulses before you're out of range?
That's a great question. One, maybe you talent into faster pulse. Maybe the more candles that have been knocked out because of the damage you've received increase the pulse rate. I'm not sure. I mean, I like the idea that if you delay turning this on, that delayed gratification, you are rewarded more than if you simply pop it when it's ready, because that implies you're kind of at a higher level of play.
I like it. I like either way there. I think a talent choice would be something that this would actually land on, right? I mean, excuse me, something that you can choose the way you want it to go.
There you go, right? And if you're up against a team where you don't need lots faster pulses, it would be a waste of a talent, right?
Yeah, talent diversity. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Let's get into some heroics here. What's your first one?
Okay, the first one is called The Maw Must Feed. Oenia's skull is hungry since her soul cannot rest. And Oenia's skull is what the Candleking is wearing. Now, it cannot rest, allowing it to be activated with this passive heroic.
Nice.
When chosen, the Skull Helm now gives the king a permanent % increase to his damage. Nearby minion and mercenary deaths add a smaller % increase. So if a hero dies, a permanent % increase to his damage. If minions and mercenaries die nearby, it's a smaller percentage, but it's still permanent.
Oh, I like it a lot. Okay, so does it give you a percentage at the beginning of when you select this heroic, or these deaths have to occur to buff you up during the game?
Let's do the deaths have to occur after you've chosen it. Maybe like a level 20, it takes into account retroactive deaths, and then it adds all of those. So by level 20, if you've been on the kill timer and everything, boom, you're nuts. But I don't know.
I like it. I like the boom, you're nuts. That'd be so great. I mean, and this is cool because, so the visual for this, what are you thinking? Like, is this skull helm of his going to start getting, you know, like the butcher's, you know, when the butcher completes his quest where his, you know, his giant sai or whatever it is that he's got, his hook is like glowing. What does this look like?
Oh, that's a challenging. Oh, that's so much fun, though. That's the best part, is designing how this looks, because then you get to talk about how cool these things could be. I think it would have to glow so that enemies would know if they die nearby. And maybe it's a dark purple glow to speak to that shadow
cool.
that the kobolds are trying to keep at bay.
I love it. That's a great idea. What a cool heroic. So I'm seeing a time that you would want to take this heroic. I want to see what the second heroic is to see if it's like, if I'm going to take that one instead.
Okay, so take Candle. Extinguishing his own life, the Candleking gives his own to bring forth the devouring darkness. An evil creature of shadow, it is able to inflict and take high amounts of damage. When summoned, the player gains 3 new abilities: Shadow Bolt, Looming Shadows, which is an area burst, and Demonic Strikes, a friendly buff that gives a fellow hero more damage and automatically spawns Shadow Flame Imps when that hero attacks with their abilities.
This is the one I'm taking, Kristen. This is incredible. So you kill yourself.
Yes.
Okay. And then when you do, your body like crumbles down and this devouring darkness creature comes up from the ground.
Exactly. So maybe you die and your tiny little candles are left on the ground and the last light goes out, little smoke comes up, but from the smoke this portal rips open and the darkness comes through.
Oh, incredible. What a great idea. Okay, so you're controlling this summoned character. Is it on a timer? Does it last for as long as your death timer? How does that all work?
I would imagine it would be timed. I don't know if it would be as long as the death timer, because then your power is a lot stronger late game, right? If you're on a 30-second death timer versus a 5-second. So I'd imagine it's a set time, and you get to wreak as much havoc as possible. And have a good, grand old time. Bring in the darkness.
Totally. And it's got to look really cool, obviously. I mean, this, like, shadow creature. I mean, I'm thinking Belrog from Lord of the Rings, Shadow and Flame, something like that.
Yeah, totally. Or like one of those void walkers, except he's not tank thick. He's just a tall and spindly thing with long fingers.
Oh, I love it. How cool. What a great kit. And what a cool way to envision this warrior version of the Candleking. You know, short little stubby warrior that can go in there, throw a candle at you to slow you down, then, you know, move around you while attacking, something that we only see with Overwatch characters now. And then obviously these heroics are incredible. I mean, talking about gaining attack power for deaths around you, which is something, if your team doesn't have enough DPS, that's the way you gotta go. Or you can choose to, as you put it, extinguish your own life and have a demonic creature come out of the last extinguished flame of one of your last candles. I mean, this sounds like a character I would spend all the shards in the world. Oh, it's not shards, all the gems in the world to get.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I think the hilarity alone of having a tiny warrior would be enough to get everyone on board with it.
Oh, heck yeah. Totally. I love it. All right, before we get on to my kit, we have some people that we need to thank. First and foremost, we need to thank all of our patrons that help support the show week after week. Thank you so much for your support. We couldn't do it without you. We got to meet some of you at BlizzCon, which was so cool. Thank you so much for coming up and saying hi. If you didn't get a chance to say hi, we'll be at BlizzCon next year. Come and say hi then. Hopefully everybody can make it out. And again, a huge thank you to all of our patrons. A huge thank you again to everyone that has given us a 5-star review on iTunes. It really helps the show grow. Thank you so much for that as well. Okay, let's get into some differences here in our kits. The first one is that my role classification that I went with is Specialist.
Oh, so why did you settle on specialist rather than any kind of, because leadership role, right? As a king.
Yeah, I just couldn't get over how in everything that I read, it was saying that, they're just not great at what they do. And, they're not very scary. And they're just not, cool.
So you put it in the specialist role, right? You have Medivh. He's not really good at healing, so just make him a specialist.
No, that's not why I did that. But I didn't want to put him in a leadership role is what I thought here. So I thought specialist, and speaking of Medivh and not being good, that was definitely the opposite of what we saw at HGC. Medivh was lit.
Yeah, he was incredible. But he seems to be that character that was made for high level play. Yeah.
I mean, when you see it at that level of play, you're like, holy cow, that's incredible. Okay, back to the Candleking. So yes, I went with the specialist, and the trait that I went with here is called Shine the Light. So the fantasy with this build, or with this kit, is that he's a specialist that's going to use unique abilities to help his team in unique ways. When this trait is activated, the Candleking can remove the candle from on top of his head and place it on the battlefield, granting vision for his team in that area. This candle cannot be destroyed by the enemy, unlike any other vision that you have at this point. And in order for it to be moved, the Candleking player has to pick it back up and place it in a different location. So simple.
Fascinating. So apparently vision needs to be baked into this hero.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's really what I'm seeing here. He just takes the candle off and puts it down. And I see a talent choice to maybe a talent called Take Candle, where if somebody comes in range of the candle on the enemy team, what if the Candleking teleported to that place, right? Instantly, or had the option to. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yes, or what if he set up little kobolds around it, right? And they protect it. So there are 4, I mean, not that the candle can be damaged, but it adds damage to the candle because 4 little kobolds would go attack the hero that got too close.
Yeah, there's a ton of different kinds of talents that you could do with this candle, but I wanted it to not be able to be destroyed, and I wanted it to be movable.
Now, would it be timed in regards of how long it could stay in that position, or it's just permanently there until the Candleking moves it?
It's just permanently there until he moves it. So he can move it anywhere on the battlefield that he can get to, but it's going to stay there. So he dies, it's still there. It doesn't move until he goes back to that place and picks it up. So there's a bunch of strat involved in that, on where to put it, where it's going to go, stuff like that.
It would be horrible on Blackheart's Bay and horrible on Cursed Hollow, because you could keep check on Blackheart and you could keep check on the enemy boss the entire game.
Totally. Yeah, it would be really, really tough. So for his mounting ability, I'm saying that he's going to be in a runaway minecart.
Yes! Would he have others in there with him, or would it just be him? Would he put on a hat? Would he wear a leather jacket? Would he have a whip?
No. There would be other kobolds, I love that idea, in there. Just kind of like looking around like, what the heck's going on? We're not really good at what we do.
I love it. They're like the underdogs. They try so hard, and they just want the best for their people, but their brains are the size of peanuts, I'm guessing.
That's right. I mean, no offense to any kobold lovers out there. I mean, if you are, if you think they're cute, then to each his own, correct?
To each their own, right? The kobolds, they're just digging. That's all they want to do.
That's right. So let's get into some basic abilities. So the first one here is called Stolen Trinkets. So this is something that kobolds are known for. Of course, they also steal. Why not? So this ability has 2 different uses. When it's used on a minion or a mercenary camp, the Candleking will toss a candle on the head of the target. This will give them a damage and health increase. So this effect persists through the duration of the unit. So let's say, for example, you take a mercenary camp. It's a 2 pushing giants. You can throw this candle onto one of the giants and it gives them a health and damage increase as they push the lane, and it lasts for the entirety of their life. So if it's used on an enemy hero, though, they will receive a candle on top of their head as well, but it will blind them for a short amount of time. Like the wax is dripping down into their eyes, you know. So 2 different things.
I like that. It works so well in the light too. I love that idea of the wax dripping into their eyes. That would be a great visual. And then it's kind of, oh, I love this because it's mercenary lord or mercenary queen, but you don't have to be there.
Yeah, it's baked into them pushing on their own, right? So you take a camp, you throw this candle on top of one of the giants, and then you just go for it, guys. And hopefully using your trait, you're able to decide where you want to put camps pushing a little better. You have a little bit more of a sight going on with that.
Definitely. And then that doesn't mean, it means you're not locked in lane either. So as a specialist, you can really kind of force the enemy's hand because you have this buffed guy who's just going to keep pushing if you don't stop him. So you can do that, but join your team so that they have a 5-man fight instead of a 4-man, hey guys, I'll be there if you're still alive when you're done.
Totally. And some of these other abilities go along with that sort of idea as well. So the next one is called Enslave. So this ability has 2 different uses as well. When it's used on a minion or mercenary camp, it will make the targeted unit become friendly and help the Candleking attack the others in the area. This ability lasts for a short amount of time before the unit will return to the enemy side. So just to explain this a little bit. If you're fighting a camp and it's 2 giants again, and you use Enslave on one of the giants, it begins fighting the other giant. So it's going to join in and fight for you. If there's an enemy camp that's pushing your lane and you throw Enslave on an enemy camp, it also will fight for you in that lane. It'll start fighting the other enemy units.
Nice. I like that.
So it also has an enemy hero ability. So if you put this Enslave on an enemy hero, they'll deal less damage to the Candleking player for a short amount of time.
Oh, interesting. So you thinking in that regard it would be an escape?
Sort of. When you see the E, you'll see what I mean, but what I'm thinking with this. But yeah, it's basically you're not really wanting to use this on enemy heroes. You want to use it on camps, but you could if you wanted to.
Yeah, and that's great to have with the specialist is an adaptable utility where you could use this on an enemy hero, but you'll be rewarded if your team is built so that you can use it to push lanes.
Totally. That's exactly what I was thinking there. And then I'll tell you my third one because this will help you understand what I'm thinking for escape here. It's called Skull of Bossing Around. The Candleking tosses a skull helm, that same one that we were talking about in your kit, at the target, and for a short amount of time, they cannot deal damage to the Candleking. This can also be placed on all mercenary and boss camps in the match with the same effect.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so boss camps, huh?
Yeah, so basically he would be able to take a boss. This would be his Illidan evade or whatever that's called, or his Varian parry. You know, you would have the ability to not take the damage from that.
Yeah, now, you could still do damage to the boss, right? It doesn't make them a friendly unit. It simply stops them from attacking you.
Yeah, this specific one just stops them from being able to deal damage to you. So they can still attack you, but it's basically just evading all of the attacks because they have the skull of being bossed around on.
Yes. Now, here's a question. Would he come with any traits that allow him to heal himself? And if so, how do you think that would work?
That's a really good thought. So I know that's what specialist players are always looking for, right? How can I heal myself? How can I sustain myself to picking up this this mercenary camp, right? I don't know. I guess you could bake it into maybe one of the other basic abilities, or maybe even that one. Maybe when they have the skull on, you're draining a percentage of their life or something like that that's getting you more health. I was kind of thinking more of the evade line rather than a regaining health, but I was thinking Illidan also has a regain health thing as well, right?
Yeah, with his basic attacks. So you hit evade, get your health back, you can start taking damage again. But the hits also reduce your cooldowns, so if you time it right, your health shouldn't be moving too much. Yeah.
I like it. Okay, so there'd have to be something baked in here. I'm not sure where it would go. They could really go into any of these basic abilities, but it would need that to be a full-on take camps by yourself kind of feel.
Yeah, or I mean, maybe the thing that's baked in is camps do less damage to him, right? Just something as simple as that is because they're less respected by the heroes, much like the kobolds are. There's that camaraderie, and their hearts just aren't in it.
I like that idea. I like that idea a lot. Let's say that that's part of it as well. So let's talk about some heroics here. The first one is called Blue Wax. So Blue Wax, when this heroic is selected, the Candleking can now place candles on structures. Friendly structures will have allied harpies fly around them, attacking any enemy that attempts to damage the structure. If placed on an enemy structure, it will grant the friendly team vision all around the area of the structure until the structure is destroyed.
Oh, nice. You know how wonderful it would be to have vision over the gate when you're pushing.
I mean, it's a heroic sort of feeling, right? I mean, you still have to go up to the gate and got to get right up to it in order to put the candle on it. So he's got to be right up against the gate. He could put it on the tower, and then you would be able to see on the other side of it.
Totally. And how much damage do you think the harpies would do? I mean, how many harpies are flying around? What, do they pick up enemy heroes and drop them a distance away?
Oh, that'd be so sick. I would love that. No, this is more of a thought where I have, they're kind of like an extra cannonball. So if you were to add a cannonball in between every cannonball shot, that's what the harpies would be like. So you get hit by a cannonball and then you get hit again. Well, if a harpy was there, it would be like hit, 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 hit. So it's faster. And it will not last forever. That one doesn't last forever, obviously. Maybe it even has charges on it like the cannonballs, or it uses the ammo of, well, ammo's not really going to be a thing anymore, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're taking that away.
So that's crazy to think about. But yeah, it would have some sort of mechanic like that.
Nice. And then what would the range for the harpies be? Would it be as big as the tower? Bigger? Smaller?
I think smaller, right? That would make more sense. Like if you were kind of like talking about your vision idea with the bushes. So there's two ranges for a tower now. There's the full range, and then there's the harpy range, which is smaller. So you're taking just cannonball shots on the outside portion of the range, and then if you come in closer, you're going to take both.
Gotcha. I like that.
So that's Blue Wax. Now the second heroic is called Notoriously Cowardly. Notoriously... Am I saying that right?
Yeah, you got it. Notoriously. Notorious B.I.G. That's how I remember it.
The Candleking player selects a large area on the battlefield, and all allies that are in this area gain a shield and immediately retreat towards the friendly zone. This ability ignores stuns and roots, allowing the friendly team to escape a sticky situation.
Oh, snap. So a safe retreat. Now, what's the cooldown for this thing?
I think it's pretty low. I think you could use this a lot if you wanted to. If you wanted to disengage and force your team to disengage, this would be great. Also, I kind of imagine that it also disengages your other units in the lane. Minions, mercenaries, boss, whatever it is, it'll disengage them as well. So they'll push the opposite direction and gain a shield, and then after a certain distance, they'll go and start pushing again.
Which could be interesting if they run back long enough to meet up with a second wave, and suddenly you've got this merged double wave pushing onto a single wave.
That'd be cool, enemy. Wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. So how far back then do you think the retreat would go for?
I don't know. Maybe if you're in the middle of a lane, it would take you far enough back to go behind the wall.
That's a pretty good distance. Definitely. And I like, too, that it protects you from things that would otherwise snag you. And I mean, how many times have we wanted to pull our teammates back because they're just hacking away at this keep, you're not gonna get the keep at level 13. Let's just go get the objective. Nope, okay. And then they get mad because they're all dead and you retreated.
There's some definite trolly ways you could use this, and that would be one of them, just moving people out. If you're pissed off during the game, you could just move people off of tributes or whatever. I like to think that most people wouldn't use it like that, even though I'm sure a lot of stuff would happen like that. But yeah, I wanted something that had a feeling of that it would just move. You would be able to retreat safely. So I'm thinking that this shield is pretty intense.
Yeah, totally. So kind of like Lucio's Amp It Up, right? Because that's not something you run into and go, oh, we can fight through this. That's something you see and you go, well, let's back up a bit. We'll re-engage once it goes away.
Yeah, and think about the ability to move a boss back and how pivotal that may be in the game. If a boss was pushing and your whole team wasn't there yet and you were about to push with the boss, or maybe the boss is ahead of a catapult wave and you want them to come back a little bit to join up, how cool would it be to use it like that?
That's a great idea. Because how many times are your bosses burned just because they were pushing at an inopportune time? I didn't think about that. Yeah, that would be so powerful, because then that gives you more control over lane setup. And that can be extremely useful during an objective, for instance.
Oh, totally. And it's something that we saw a long time ago in Heroes Esports a long time ago, where remember like when Cloud9 won and everybody before the match would start, they'd all slow down the minions. You could go and you could kind of slow down your lane minions so that the enemy's minions would end up closer to your tower, and then you would be able to use your tower shots to help wipe out that first wave. I mean, so it shows that is something that would be a benefit to the game, to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, battlefield control, right? The more of that you have, the higher your chances of winning. And I mean, now we see that with CC, right? Because when you have CC on your team, you get to control when the fights happen, you get to control where the fights happen, and you get to control how the fights happen.
Yeah, it's really cool when you have the ability to do that. Okay, cool. That's my specialist kit there. So just kind of summing it all up, you're using these unique abilities to be able to, control mercenary camps, give them an additional buff to push the lane, doing things like being able to tell enemies that they can't attack you. That kind of stuff is what I was going with. And Kristen, I forgot to ask you, how do you sum up your whole kit? How do you sum it all up if you had to?
I would sum it up with set fire to the game.
I'm so glad I remembered to ask you. I'm so glad. It's great. All right, well, before we can call these kits Forge, though, we got to talk about the best part, and that is specialty skins and dance moves. Let's get it rolling. I'll start with specialty skin this week, and I'm going to go with Short Round from Indiana Jones. You called it, Kristen.
Yes, well, the minecart, right? I mean, it's just part of our generation. You hear minecart, you think Temple of Doom.
Yep. Or I was thinking like a Peter Pettigrew kind of thing. Short, little rat-like guy.
Yeah. So with your Candleking, would he still have the horns, or are you thinking like a kobold model where it's just the kobold with the candle on its head?
I think that maybe that's the Master Skin version of it. So, like, I pictured him more like the Candleking in, like, a Master Skin. So, like, maybe it's the prequel Candleking at the beginning, which he's more koboldy.
He's more kobold than he is candle now.
That's right. Another Star Wars reference. I love it. What were your specialty skin ideas?
Okay, so I just have one skin, and I'm calling it the Bambi King. And close your ears, guys, if you love Bambi, because it turns out Bambi's head makes a great trophy. Because my Candleking is the one with the moose. Not the moose. It's not a Tauren. What are they in Highmountain? Do you remember?
Tauren, right?
Okay, they're still Tauren, but they were blessed by a god, so they got the antlers.
Yeah, the Highmountain Tauren.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of that, you'd have Bambi's, right? Because he's got awesome antlers.
So you're saying in this fantasy here, the Candleking has defeated Bambi.
Well, not necessarily, right? Because the skull of Owenia, I think it was just found and it was dug up from her grave. So Bambi's had a natural passing. Nothing rude happened. He lived out his life, and maybe a kobold was digging and found this cool antlered skull.
I love it. Would he be able to ice skate?
Yes, but he would slip and maybe Thumper comes out and you get to ride around on Thumper.
Love it. We need a winter battleground. That's what I'm calling for. I've been calling for it for years. I want a winter battleground, but not before Janitor Leoric. Okay, cool. Let's talk about dance moves here. What's your dance move idea?
Okay. I'm calling it the dog booty dance because it doesn't really have a name. But if you've ever seen the video of the kid dancing and there's this dog that looks like it's dancing too by shaking its butt, it's actually scratching its rump on the ground, but it looks like they're dancing together. That's the dance I want this guy to do.
I have not seen that, but I will definitely look it up. That is hilarious. My dance move idea is the Seven Dwarves Mind Dance, right? So let's just pull this out here. So he throws back his pick and he just starts hi-hoing down the lane.
Yes, and what if more kobolds come out? And so there's a line of kobolds, hi-ho!
This is the classic Disney film-inspired kobold forging this evening.
It's adorable. And then like the sun sets, so it looks like they have little shadows on. Now, since they're doing their walk with the diggity dig, or it's just him doing the walk, can you lead him in a path, or does he just stand in place?
He would probably stand in place, right? We wouldn't want to change the way that they dance. Maybe he walks in a circle.
Oh, there we go. He thinks he's getting somewhere.
But he's not really good at what he does. So if we've learned anything, that's what we've learned tonight. And we can say that this hero was officially forged.
HeroesForge.
All right, the kobold Candleking, Kristen. I do think that a kobold could come into this game, and it would be really cool.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. His shape is very unique. He would have abilities that I don't think we've even seen in the Nexus. But maybe the popularity thing would kind of keep him on the back end. Because if we're sticking true to form, they would release him and he wouldn't be very good at what he was supposed to do.
That's true. Who knows? Maybe that would be part of his shtick, you know? Maybe he's not very good, but that makes him, like Murky, right? He's good at what he does, but
he doesn't often get to do what he's supposed to do.
Very true. Although Murky's win rate is up right now.
Well, he goes in and out of fashion, right? And I think it has to do with, do people remember to attack the puffer fish? So you forget about it, and then he can have a great time, and then everyone remembers, and suddenly it's not so fun anymore. But I heard Anna Murky is actually a pretty darn good combo.
Really? Gotta try that out sometime. I've been loving Murky lately. I love playing Murky. It's a ton of fun. Cool. So any last thoughts on the Candleking here? I think it's definitely something that we could see in the game. It would be viable in any of the role classifications, I think.
It really would. And we would get a race we have yet to see in the Nexus, but one that's not really brought up that often. So it would be intriguing if a kobold at least was chosen to enter Heroes before something, as loved and expected as the Firebat.
True, very true. I think we're looking at Firebat next, but who knows? Who knows? All right, we're going to call the show there, but before we do, Kristen, where can people find you in the interwebs when you're not doing this show?
In the interwebs, you can find me at Dream Destroyer, that is DRMDESTRYR, over at Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
So what are we working on now that BlizzCon's all done? Are we still working on Dark Souls?
Still working on Dark Souls. We've got about 6 to 7 bosses left, and apparently the end game bosses are always the hardest, and apparently these are super hard. So it's the get good phase, right? We've had fun, but now we need to actually do the practice to get the repetition ready, and so that we can play the concerto in perfect rhythm to beat them.
Oh, I totally know the feeling. Good luck. Have fun. It's going to be awesome. Check out Kristen's stream. It's a ton of fun, and the chat room is awesome over there as well. If you're looking for me, you can find me here on HeroesForge, but you can also find me on the Divinity 2 stream that I do with Kristen. We do it on Sunday afternoons at 2 o'clock on Kyle Ferguson's channel. It is twitch.tv/Kyle Ferguson. Check it out. It was super fun today. Questing in a D&D-like game called Divinity Original Sin 2. Check it out. It's really cool. Now, as far as this show goes, we record the show live every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/Amove TV because we are a part of the Amove TV Entertainment and Podcast Network. A huge thank you to Amove TV for throwing that awesome get-together at the Hilton during BlizzCon, and thank you for having us on the channel. We are honored to be a part of it. For more great esports and video game podcasts, make sure you check out amove.tv. You can follow us on Twitter at ForgeHeroes. You can send us an email, contactheroesforge@gmail.com. And I also want to say that if you sent us a kit in the last month or so when we were doing our holiday special, or even before that, and you haven't gotten a response, do not fret. We are getting back to featured forgers every month this month, and we have some really sick ones lined up for you that have just been home runs. Check out our website, which is heroesforge.club, and if you too would like to become a patron and help support this show, head over to patreon.com/heroesforge for more information on how you can throw us $1 or $2 and help us keep going week after week after week. Again, a huge thank you to all of those that already do. All right, Kristen, I got the feels because BlizzCon is over, but we really are counting down mentally. We're not going to throw it out every episode, but I am telling you, it's the best time of the year.
It really is. And of course, I'm hearing new people who haven't gone yet who are making plans to go for it this next year. And the hype this last one was the best one I've been to. So the hype is real for the next one.
Totally. If you're out there thinking, man, I missed it, I need to go next year, here's what you got to do. You got to put $5 away every week. If you just put $5 away a week, by the time you get to the end there, you're going to have enough saved up to get out to BlizzCon and have a great time, depending on where you live.
The flight's worth it. There were people from all over the world there.
There absolutely were, and it was a blast. Thank you to everyone that came out. Thank you to everybody in the chat room as always, and we will see you all in the real world.